Welcome back. In this video, we're going to set up the user interface that we want them to use to have a button that allows us to basically display the user's location. So in the last video, we set up the location utils for that. Now let's go over to our main activity, and I'm going to create a new composable. We can put that in here. I'm going to get rid of the old composable, the greeting one, and we can go ahead and add that composable here. We can obviously also create it in a separate file, but I'm just going to use that here. So I'm going to call this one location display, and what it will require is going to be the location utils. So location utils, and then the context. So context of type context. Now this composable, we need to import context for this to work. This composable will have a column in it because I want to stack items on top of each other, and I'm going to add some modifiers to that column. So modifier, which will be modifier dot fill max width, or let's use max size. Then I also want to have items to be horizontally aligned, so center horizontally, alignment center horizontally, like so. And then let's also add vertical arrangement. So arrangement center, like so. Now in here, I'm just going to have a text first, which is just going to say location not available at the beginning. Okay, and we want to change that obviously. And then there will be a button. All right, now this button needs an onclick, as we always have, and it needs some content, which I will just use text. And I'm gonna say get location. So the button is just gonna say get location. That's the idea here. Now, what should happen once we click on this button? So we're going to check if location utils dot has location permission, and we need to pass the context, as we know. Then we want to basically here and here, we want to update the location if we already have permission. So here we will say permission already granted, and we want to update the location. So if that's the case, let's do that. Otherwise, else we're going to say request location permission. So these are the things that I want to do inside of the application. Now, how do we request the permission? So we need to display the permission launcher in order to do that. So how can we do that? Well, therefore, we're going to set up something inside of our, well, we can do it inside of the location display, because there's really not too much else that will be crazy what's going on. So before this column inside of my location display composable, I will request the permission launcher. All right, and this will be a remember launcher for activity result. So what this is it registers a request to start an activity for result. This creates a record in the registry associating with its caller managing request code, as well as conversions to from intent from under the hood. So this is really basically something where we say, okay, show this pop-up, and this will be the activity that we want to launch. And once something inside of this pop-up is returned, give me that result. So give me whatever was returned as a result. So that's what this remember launcher for activity result will do for us. So you see, we need to pass in a contract as well as what should happen on result. So the contract that I'm going to pass in here, and let me actually put that into a separate line so that it's going to be a little more readable, will be activity result contracts. So there is this namespace that we can use here, this import, and we can use request multiple permissions. So this is basically the contract that we have with this permission launcher or with this launcher. So you need to pass something called a contract. So the contract specifying conversions to and from intents. So basically an intent is starting an activity, and that's what we want to do here. We want to start an activity for result. So a for result activity, which usually would be a separate screen. So usually an activity is a screen, but it can also just be a pop-up. So you can see here that our main activity is also an activity, right? It's the entire screen. So we're basically saying inside of that screen, go to this other screen, in our case, open this pop-up, and then go and give me the result, or get me the result, so to speak, of the permissions. So now what should happen on result? So in this on result, I want to do something. Well, I want to run some code. You see, I have this map string boolean unit. So on result, I get map string boolean. So I get something, and the thing that I'm gonna get are the permissions. So permissions, because that's what this contract will return. Okay, so it's going to give us the permissions that we are requesting, and then we can do something with them. And here in this if statement, I can use my permissions. So permissions, and actually this is going to give me the permissions, not permission. It will be a plural of permissions. Okay, not just one. So the permissions, and this is like a key value pair. This is a map, right? We saw that when we looked over the on result, we would get a map of string and boolean. So we need to pass in the string that we want to check the boolean of, which basically means we want to know whether for the string of that permission, basically a permission is just a, well, to access that permission's like value, we need to know the name of that permission, and this is just a string, and it will return the boolean. So basically this is what this map is storing. It's storing a boolean for a particular permission that is of type string. So in this case, the permission name is just this string, and we can use manifest dot permission dot, and here access underscore course, and actually let me just get this from here, access course location. So access course location. Now why is that not working? And that has to do with me not having the manifest. Let me see if I have it in my imports here. Seems like I don't have it in the imports. Let me add the manifest. So now I should have the manifest. And now I need to compare if that is true. So I'm checking, is that true? And then I can do whatever magic I want to do in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to not just check one permission, I'm going to check multiple permissions. Okay, so I also want to check if I have the find location. So here again, I'm going to use the double and sign, and then I'm going to check whether we do have the access find location. If I don't have those two permission locations, then I can say I have access to location. Okay, and otherwise, that's where I want to ask for permission. And as this would become a way too long video, I would say let's make a break here. But basically we have the first step. So we have this remember launcher for activity result. We set up the contract, we get what we want to do on result, and now comes the interesting part where we actually say what should happen once we do have the permission, and what should happen once we, well, if we don't have the permission. And that's what we're going to look at in the next video. So see you there.